Hello everyone. It's me, Arden Lee. I'm back with another video. Happy Thanksgiving if that's a holiday you celebrate, and if you don't celebrate it, I also don't blame you for that. I wanted to take this opportunity today, since it is Thanksgiving in America anyway. I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is how to redirect gratitude, which gets marketed to us horribly, into a way that's actually useful to you, that can actually serve you and help bring you more of what you want in your life. Gratitude has always gone hand in hand with traditional Thanksgiving, and one of the things that I love to do with things that get handed to me by society is to examine them and pull them apart and decide which parts of them work for me and which ones do not. So I've already made a couple videos this week about Thanksgiving and how to handle that holiday in particular. Hopefully, if you caught those, that hopefully that all made some sense and was helpful to you in planning what you wanted to do for your Thanksgiving and how you spent it. And even if that meant opting out of it and not doing anything at all. And today, what I want to do is I want to talk about how to reprogram your idea of gratitude, how to take its that kind of nasty, bitter bite out of that word, which I'll get into. To how that tends to happen, and I want to invite you to reframe it in a way that's going to be helpful for you, and really actually helpful, and not just something you feel like you should do out of obligation. So. First of all, if you haven't done so already, I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel. And if you have an issue that you yourself are struggling with, I invite you to leave it in the comments and let me know what you want help with. Let me give me a shot at tackling the things that you're dealing with right now. And in addition to that, of course, let me know how these videos are hitting you. Let me know what's being helpful. And stay connected with me. I would love to hear from you. So for today, since today is Thanksgiving, I want to talk about gratitude, and I want to talk about the reason that I resisted it for so long. Because when I hear the word gratitude, I immediately think of hi Virgil. Virgil is on my lap. I guess he doesn't want to be there anymore. He probably doesn't like gratitude either. Knowing him, he definitely doesn't. So the reasons that gratitude felt so distasteful to me for so long were because I grew up in a pretty typical suburban kind of middle class family, and like a lot of children in that time and environment, I heard a lot about how grateful I should be for things. How I should eat all the food on my plate because there's starving children in China and Africa who don't have anything to eat, and I ought to be grateful. And certainly then, we would go to school and we'd learn about Thanksgiving, and we'd have to say all these things that we're grateful for. And coming up with things that we feel grateful for started to feel to me like this way of being like a good girl, being like a model student, being a model child, daughter, behaving. And as you can see by some of the work that I do now, behaving is not my goal. I would much rather improve, and in order to improve, we often need to disrupt. So I have this energetic relationship to the word gratitude that is about like shutting up and being being compliant. And oh, hi, are you back? Oh, see, now that I'm talking about improving and disrupting things, Virgil wants to come back for the video again. So we clearly know where he stands on things. So I have this energetic relationship to the word gratitude that is about being obedient, being compliant, and being that model child. And that really doesn't suit me anymore, because that paradigm, as someone who grew up in an abusive household, that paradigm was harmful to me. That was that basically what I hear when someone asks me to focus on gratitude is I hear, stop complaining about your circumstances. Shut up and be grateful for what you do have. And I think even in the spiritual community, even in the positivity, kind of love and light community that is out there that practices gratitude so much or talks about gratitude so much, I think that, even at least for my taste, it hasn't shed itself properly of those connotations around gratitude. And so when I hear that, I get sort of like, it's just distasteful to me, right? So I really don't blame you if you feel that way, and I felt that way for a long time. And I've managed to, over the years, I've managed to start to have a better understanding of what's useful about a gratitude practice and to separate it from all of those negative connotations that I have around the word gratitude, from like Thanksgiving and from like and I think that, especially for me in particular, I don't know what your politics are necessarily, but the fact that Thanksgiving is so inherently linked to colonialism and to rewriting a story of indigenous peoples being treated extremely badly, rewriting that story in favor of the victors who really in many ways attempted to erase the struggles of the indigenous peoples whose land they effectively stole. And so having that really be the undercurrent of Thanksgiving, and having Thanksgiving be so related to gratitude, it just feels so disingenuous. I just have so many problems with it. But as I said, I was able, over the past couple of years to discern what actually is useful about gratitude and how that functions. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to present to you a way to engage in that practice without all of the sort of awful connotations that come with it. And maybe you're a person who doesn't have those connotations around gratitude, and maybe when you think of gratitude, you don't think of Thanksgiving, you think of like, I don't know, like radical self-love and lots of pink hearts everywhere, and spiritual love and light and whatever. And maybe it works for you, and that's cool. But I know from working with a lot of people that a lot of people have a real struggle with gratitude. So that's what I want to talk about today, essentially. So that struggle around gratitude is pretty understandable, given so much of the context that so many of us had around gratitude when we were growing up, that it was something that was sort of used, it was weaponized against us in many ways, especially if you grew up in an abusive household like I did, where gratitude is used to say, like, don't complain about the fact that you're being abused, shut up and be grateful that I'm putting a roof over your head and, putting meals on the table or whatever. It's a way of, so many times there are people who weaponize gratitude, and they have us focus on gratitude so that we ignore the ways that they're mistreating us, right? And how amazing is that as like a huge metaphor for the Thanksgiving holiday anyway, right? So what I've learned about the usefulness of gratitude is that essentially what it does is it reattunes your focus to the things that you want more of in life, right? If you think of law of attraction, right? And you think of it as hacking our confirmation bias. Law of attraction states that the things that we think about, that we focus on, are what increases. So the more we think and imagine and tune our mindset to the things that we want in our lives, the more we're likely to open ourselves to receiving them and to see more and more of the pathways by which those things may come to us. So the law of attraction is one of those things that it has a really strong inherent truth and practicality to it and usefulness to it, but so many times it's spoken about so reductively that people dismiss it. So I get both sides of that argument. It's useful, but it really, to really use it, I think it requires it actually requires a much more nuanced understanding of the mechanics behind it that make it that make it work. It doesn't work to just sit and daydream about the things that you want and expect that they're just going to show up in your life. Although there are certainly moments that can happen, and that's especially magical and wonderful when it does, and you really know that you're receiving universal support and creating and manifesting from that place when that does. But it's kind of foolish to think that that's actually going to happen. So So instead, you want to focus on understanding that it's really about where you're placing your focus. It's really about how many hours you have in a day, and it's really about imagining and getting yourself in the mindset of having those things that you want, so that you can take action from a place that's congruent and aligned and allows those things to come to you more easily. So gratitude in particular, when people say, hey, have a gratitude practice, what they really mean by that is, hey, sit down and focus on what you're grateful for, because you're reattuning your focus to the positive things that you do want in your life. And by doing that, you're opening the doors to receiving more and more of them. You're to receiving that abundance, because you're putting the things that you're grateful for kind of like in the driver's seat of your manifester, right? You're doing this thing where you're hacking, as I said, you're hacking your confirmation bias. And if your confirmation bias means that you look for more and more evidence to support the things that you already believe or you already have in your life, then putting something into that container, right, where you're putting your focus, where you're putting your bias. If I look for more and more evidence that I'm being rejected in my relationships, then I'm going to see that. And believe me, I was attuned that way for a long time. If I look for more and more evidence that I'm actually loved and cherished and supported, then I actually find more and more of that. And my interpretation, certainly even alone, has a butterfly effect, because then I react differently to people, and then they respond differently to me, et cetera, and on and so forth, to the point where I can really change my results just by the evidence that I look for. But really, what a gratitude practice is functioning is doing to function properly is it's reattuning you to the things that you want more of. So I actually get rid of the word gratitude entirely, you guys. I make love lists. I make lists in my journal of things that I love, and I guess you could say, yeah, things that I'm grateful for as well. But mostly just things that I feel really great about. I'm like, even if it's, I don't care, even if it's your favorite flavor of ice cream, even if it's the fact that, Virgil comes up and sleeps next to me when I'm making my videos, whatever it is, maybe, a kind, I got, there was a friend of mine on Facebook who left me a really kind voice text over Facebook Messenger that was really sweet, so if I did a love list today, I'd probably write that down and be like, wow, that was really cool, I really like that. And the more that you focus and specifically attune your focus to those things that you love, the more and more you're going to notice them in your world, and the more they're going to start increasing in your reality. So the idea that gratitude is a way of ignoring our pain and ignoring our traumas, I want you to get rid of that paradigm. I want you to, if you don't want to use the word gratitude, that's fine. Like I said, I don't even use it either, because again, gratitude in my own history has been so very much associated with a denial of my own pain, with a repression of the trauma that I was facing. So I'm super not into that. But what you do want to do is just use it to reattune your focus to the things that you want more of. Whether you want to say, hey, here's what I'm grateful for today, or whether you just say, well, hey, here's what I'm in love with right now. Here's what I'm in love with about my life. Here's what I'm in love with in my world and the way that it's showing up. And you can do that without having any need to deny what's also, a problem or an issue or an injustice that you're also facing that you don't want to ignore. You can do both of those things simultaneously. And being grateful or being in love with something in your life does not mean a denial of your pain. You can still address those things, and both of those things can be true at once. So I hope this was helpful. If you're celebrating Thanksgiving today, happy Thanksgiving, however you're choosing to celebrate it. I will be, by the time you're watching this video, I'll be with my family for sure. And, we'll have dinner, but we'll keep it pretty low key, because we're, we don't really buy into a lot of the hype either. So we do whatever works for us. So I invite you, similarly, to take anything around those practices that get handed to you and dissect them for the parts of them that do work for you, and disregard any of the parts that do not. And figuring out the difference between what works for you and what doesn't work for you, that, my friend, is emotional self-mastery, that is discernment, and that is a lifelong cultivation. So I wish you the best with that. I hope this was helpful, and thank you so much. Have a great holiday week.